When we want control in this country and around the world, we can have it in about 8 minutes. Apparently you just don't want it yet, so I'll be patient. Our guest this evening is Max Igan from Australia. Yeah, he's an intriguing guest. Check out his website at thegrowhouse.com before the New World Order takes it out. But Max, you mentioned that you guys in Australia lost your guns a decade ago. How did that exactly happen?
Well, there was a shooting down at Port Arthur in Tasmania. It's the world's worst mass killing from a single shooter. Killed 35 people in a space of about an hour. Just a single gunman went on a rampage and shot a whole bunch of people in a tourist resort. But there's actually no way he did it. He is in the bottom 2% of the population as far as IQ goes. He's got no gun experience. He managed to get headshots on everybody. Changed weapons from two completely different styles of weapons that have completely different actions, and you'd have to know your guns to be able to shoot these things. The gun that he used was actually confiscated by Victorian police a year earlier, and suddenly found its way into his hands on that particular morning. And everything about it reeks of a government job. It absolutely does. And then as soon as it happened, they just said, well, that's it. Mass shooting in Australia, the worst shooting in the history of the world. We're going to confiscate all your guns. And they did. And you had the choice of handing in your gun or go to jail. That was it. There was no grey area, and there was nothing you could possibly do about it. And it sort of, it was very insidious the way it was done. And this man pulled headshots on 35 people. He had the best shoot-to-kill rate anywhere of any shooting that's ever happened. And then he left wrecked cars and all this stuff all the way to his hideout so people would find out where he was hiding out. It was just such a setup. And then when he's locked inside in this house screaming out his innocence, and the police are shooting at him, and so he started shooting back, he let off something like 200 and something rounds. I don't know the exact number, but it was over 200 rounds. I think it was over 250 rounds he let off from the house. He didn't hit one person. So it's hard to understand how this person, who couldn't hit anybody from a house with a gun with a scope, was able to pull headshots on people from the hip all through town that morning. It doesn't make sense. And he was locked up in jail. We're not allowed to take photos of him. No one's allowed to see him. A lot of people say that if they had one photograph of him, they could prove that it wasn't him that was photographed on the day. But the government won't let it happen. And that happened, 12 years ago or 14 years ago now.
Yeah, it's real surprising because I think most Americans like me, I've always thought of Australians as a rugged, kind of man's man nation, guys that wouldn't cough up their guns at all, and I guess that's not the case. You were talking about how their propaganda of fear actually causes their outcome to happen, using our fixation on this evil. And I totally agree with you. Jesus said that one of his apostles asked him about evil, and he said, do not acknowledge it. So I think he was talking about the same thing there. How does that actually work, us creating the New World Order's plan by fixating on it?
Well, this is part of the secret knowledge that they've kept hidden from people all this time. I mean, the fact that we create this reality with our emotions and our intent. It's all about energy. It's all about a battle of energy, the whole thing. It's about what energy you channel. If you can lock yourself into a state of fear and think about bad things happening enough, then you will attract it. You will attract similar energy. Similar energy attracts similar energy. That's the way it works. And if people sit there and think, oh, the world's going to end, the world's going to end, the world's going to end, well, the world will end. That's the way it works. They know that if they can control people's emotions, then they can bring about this sort of reality. This is what, when you're talking about Jesus, this is what the Christ tried to tell people. It was all about love. He's saying, live like me, follow me in what I do, and live in love, and you will generate this love energy, and then nothing can hurt you. It's all generated through fear. All the bad stuff is generated through fear. And we manifest it into physicality. That's the way it works. That's how powerful our minds are. That's what humanity does. We create reality ourselves. And it can be anything we want. If we can just recenter ourselves in an emotional state of love, then we can create a love reality, a love-based reality. It's that simple. It really is. And like I was saying, they don't leak enough of their plans for people to know what's going on and instill fear into them for nothing. These people aren't stupid. They wouldn't release the amount of information that we've got on the New World Order. It wouldn't be out in the public domain if they didn't want us to have it. So they want people to be in fear of this thing. They want people to be in fear of everything. They really, really do. And people need to understand this. And I keep talking to people about non-compliance, stop complying with the system. And people say, well, how do we not comply? We have to eat, we have to buy food, we have to go to work and pay our rent. And, well, yeah, that's fine. But you need to do it in love, everybody. And non-compliance is not complying with the fear state that they keep you in and not profiting from each other. We don't need to profit from each other all the time. The world doesn't need to be economically based. It should be humanitarianly based. We're all people and we're all one. It's time that humanity realise that. And we need to explain the situation to people. And everyone needs to stand by each other. And if you see injustice towards another person, especially if the injustice is being delivered by police or government, then you seriously need to understand that it is being perpetrated against you as well. And you need to address this and stop it happening. Just stop complying with it. Stop complying with the fear. Stop basing yourself in fear. Stop worrying about what they're going to do and simply change it by not complying with it. It really is that simple. People just need to understand their own personal power. We're very, very powerful beings. We're capable of incredible things, and we've been taught that we're not. We've been taught that we're divided, that our society's fractured, that, all of these things that we're taught that we're just little people, that we don't have a chance of standing up against anything ourselves. But it's not true. It's not true. We're very, very powerful. And it's done through religion, through patriotism, through race, wealth, class, every form of separatist identification that they can think of to create a divided mindset amongst the people. Anything they can think of to make them feel separated from each other. And it's worked. It's worked completely to create a completely controlled population that's utterly malleable in the hands of the few, and people don't even realise that they are being controlled. They just need to wake up to their own potential because there are much, much better ways of doing things.
Yes, and the New World Order, this conspiracy against humanity, they obviously cannot pull this off without us creating it, giving it to them. So when we come back, I want to talk a little bit, Max, about movies and how they use those to get us to create this reality for them. We'll be back in just a moment. Max, we were talking about how they get us to create the reality that they want by feeding us this stuff. And what occurs to me is one of their greatest instruments are the movies. I see movies about doomsday everywhere, about the police state, about pandemics. And speaking of pandemics, they keep bringing out this bird flu thing about every 3 months over the past decade. Obviously, it's not taking in the mass consciousness of people because it just hasn't gone anywhere. Is that how you see it, too?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. People just don't believe it, so it's not happening. But, they're trying to do it as well with the chem sprays. There's a lot of stuff in the chem sprays to do with that, and there's with the vaccinations that they're giving people now. The new vaccination, the flu shot, has got 2 of the DNA structures that you need to get the flu. You need these 3 different types of genetic structures to catch this flu, and 2 of them are in the flu compound, in the flu shot. So they give you 2/3 of it straight away to make it a lot easier for you to catch. All this sort of stuff. They do definitely try to program people with movies. And as well, when people are awakening, people start waking up to this false reality and the way that we create this reality. So they release movies like The Matrix just before that. So if you start talking about this to people, they can say, oh, you've just seen The Matrix, It sort of puts that seed in people's minds. And very, very much so. They do a lot of it with the movies. They even use the correct names and things in the movies, like some of the names of the cities and all sorts of things. It's all very, very subliminal the way they do this. And there's a lot of information gets transferred around to the Illuminati through movies as well. They use codes, numerological codes in movies. I don't know whether you noticed it in the movie Independence Day, when there's one particular scene in the movie where Jeff Goldblum noticed the countdown there was a countdown coming from the spaceship, and his calculator, when he opened it up, his laptop, the calculator read 9/11/01 was the start of the countdown. So there's little codes like that in there. That was the day of the September 11th attacks, of course. Yeah. And that was the day that Neo's passport ran out as well. If you look at the Matrix and you look at when they show the shot of his passport, that's the date on his passport as well. So they use a lot of this sort of stuff, subliminals.